if we're not careful, if we kind of push the things of God into the corner, they end up asking us, is this all there is, Ben? All those things are important. They're all good gifts of God. But man, finally, there's got to be something more than all that stuff, huh? And that's what happens to us. And I think one of the things that really hit me about this, when I find a question like this that is a universal question of all of humankind, of the human condition, because I think anywhere you go, anyone you talk to, they say, oh yeah, I've said that. And I've struggled with it, and I don't know what it means. And you see, the problem is, why is that so? Because we're missing something. Deep down, we know in our very souls, we're missing something that could and would fill us up. What is that thing? It comes from outside of ourselves because we can't find it. The human condition is that we can't find that stuff, and so God comes and He gives it to us. And that's the meaning of Easter. Easter is God's gentle, certain, empowering, deafening message, His reality, that there is more than this. And it's a gift to you. It's a gift to you. And we looked at the truth of the empty tomb and the reality of Jesus. There's more to life than just living and breathing and dying, huh? The empty tomb declares it. And it's not just about being right. It's about that thing called relationship, the thing we were made for. To have a relationship with Jesus as His brothers and sisters, and through Him as family. Yeah, it's not just about being right. It's about being loved and living in that love with God. It's what we were created for, and through Him with one another. This is the springboard for our series, More Explored. We're going to look at just about every Easter appearance in the New Testament. And we're going to look at it under this theme, More Explored. And today it's more, you matter no matter what. You matter no matter what, because there's a value to just one. And I thought about this. I thought how easily we devalue ourselves. Many parts of our nation right now, whether a brand new born baby lives or dies, the value that's put on it is what a couple people think the value should be. Whoa. Or if you're suffering in whatever way it might be and you want to end your life, we're saying it's okay now. The only value you have is what you put on yourself. Whoa. Why do we end up in those places? Because we tend to devalue ourselves personally. I could never do that. I'll look at this person over here. They're so much better than me. You know, you can talk and say all these wonderful things, but I'm just not there. I can't possibly take that step. Everybody is better than me. I can't possibly be part of that group. I am all alone in my isolation, totally devalued. And we do it to ourselves. Am I wrong here? Have you ever done it? There's a Bible passage in Romans that says, no one can bring a charge against you. But so often we bring a charge against ourselves. I'm not worth anything. Did you see what I did back here? And I can't fix it. I just can't take the next step. We devalue ourselves. We bring a charge against ourselves when even the Bible says you can't do it. Huh? I talked about one with the kids. I think that's so amazing. We talk about 1 cent and we say no value. 1 leg, we say no value. Even 1 flower or 1 meal, and that's 1 meal, that's great, but you're going to die if that's all you have. But 1 Mona Lisa, that's you. That's you. That's how God created you. And that's why He went to the cross for you. Where do you need that in your life? This is the focus today of this Easter account. So I want you to watch me a second because you're going to do just what I do. Ready? I matter to God no matter what. Can you do that? 1, 2, 3. I matter to God no matter what. You're not doing it. You take the finger, you hit your chest. All right? I just don't want you to hear this thing. I want you to feel it. Okay? Here we go. I matter to God no matter what. One more time. I matter to God no matter what. You can all go home now. That's what I want you to take home. You know, I'm going to talk about stuff because so far you haven't even looked at this account, right? But man, you take that home. And you know that you're loved by grace in Jesus Christ. It's where it's all at. This account, this resurrection account, is so interesting to me, and I tried to find a way to describe it. Last night I talked about it in like inverted concentric circles, and I remember Dom's face was looking at me like he says, "That doesn't make any sense." And I said, "I know it doesn't make any sense, but I'm trying to describe something that's here, and I think I got a better way today. It's like a set. Okay, remember set and subsets when you're in school? Right? Okay. So, because you have the whole class, and then the girls are a subset of the class, right? This is a better way. So within this set, the text begins to put concentric circles, but it's all in the set. See, I think that'll work. And it just drives this point home, the value of one, that you matter to God no matter what. Okay? So that's good. Like it starts like this, or this is where we're going to start it. That Sunday night, Easter evening, Jesus appears to the disciples. There's 10 of them there. Judas has already committed suicide, right? And Thomas isn't there. So he appears to these 10, and they've got the doors and the windows locked. They're frightened. They're frightened of the Jewish officials. They're frightened of the Romans. I don't know, but I think they're a little frightened of Jesus too, right? The last time they saw him, they were running scared. Isn't that right? And I know that Jesus said to Mary Magdalene, tell my brothers, right? Tell my brothers I'm a-coming. So he called them brothers, but you know those women, you can't trust them, right? I mean, honestly, that's what they thought at that time. So they got the doors and windows locked. They're freaking out. Jesus, bang, he's right in the middle of them. What would be your first thought, sinner? As one who walked away from him in his direst need. Oh man, I'm in trouble, huh? Yeah. And he says to them, first words, peace, Hebrew shalom, peace of body, soul, mind, and spirit in relationship. That's what the word means, is shalom be with you. And then he says, look, I want you to get this. I want you to know this. And he does whatever it takes so that they can see this is all real. He's not a ghost. Go ahead, Joe. Uh-oh. We'll just go with this. So he says, hey, feel me and see that I am who I say I am, right? That I'm real. Now, I have a question for you. When he appeared to the 10, and he said, peace be with you, you think he was serious? I mean, you think it was like, you guys really screwed up. Peace be with you. Huh? I really think, I thought about this. I had a kid once. Well, I still have kids, but one of my sons, I caught him red-handed, and I can't remember which one it was. I just know I caught him. I walked into the room, and he was fouling up, doing what he knew he shouldn't be doing, right? And so, I mean, it's just this. I walk in, and he looks at me with the big eyes. You know what I mean? With the big eyes, I got him. I got him. And I remember, I'm not a good dad, all right? So I remember I looked at those big, all I could do was laugh and put my arm around him. I think when Jesus said these words, his eyes were dancing. That's what grace does to you, see? His eyes were dancing. They didn't expect grace. He was going to give them grace. His eyes were dancing, and his face was lit. Peace be with you. They were saying, oh man, we're in big troubles. Peace be with you, huh? That doesn't mean what they did was okay. It meant he had this joy of smothering him in this grace and this forgiveness. How do you think Jesus looks at you when you're caught red-handed? when you would devalue yourself. It's not saying it's okay. Do you think he'd have the same dance in his eyes? The same forgiveness in his heart as he gives that to you? So a week later, with this picture, a week later, they're in the same place. They're gathered together. This time Thomas is with them. Now Thomas had not been with him before. And of course the 10 had told Thomas all what had happened, right? And Thomas, he didn't believe him. He said, no, unless I put my fingers where the nails were and I put my hand in the side where the spear went, I'm not believing. I mean, he had 10 guys telling him the same thing, and he wouldn't believe him. So Jesus said, well, to hell with you, pal, I don't need one more. Is that what he said? What would you say? The guy's being stubborn. I gave you 10 guys to tell you the truth, and you're still not there? When are you in that place? Do you think Jesus turns his back on you? No, he came back for Thomas. Came back for the one. He said, peace be with you, Thomas. He says, put your fingers in my hands and your fist in my side. Thomas, do what it takes, but I want you. Tell me, what do you think was in his eyes when he said that? Thomas, man, you really fouled up this time, but okay, I'll come back. Or was it the dance in his eyes and the arm around his shoulder? What do you think it was? What do you think is for you when you're the one? This is the more we're looking at today. This great, amazing love of Jesus that comes back for the one. Comes back for you. The value of one. When we talk about these things, when we talk about what Jesus did for us, and we talk about his great love for each one of us, the Spirit of God is touching your heart with this reality. And in that place where you would devalue yourself, in that place where you say, no, I can't ever change. I can't ever fix that. There may be stuff you can't fix. But nothing ever puts you outside of this wonderful ocean of love that's called grace, undeserved love that Jesus has for you. He steps into your soul right now, and with that twinkle in his eye, he says, peace be to you. This peace of body and soul and mind and spirit tied in relationship with me. Where do you need to hear that? Where do you need to receive that? By faith. You see, what sin does at its very root, it disconnects us, it isolates us. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and there's this older couple across the street, and the kids aren't around at all. And he was in the hospital, and he had to call my friend, and he had to say, hey, go check on my wife, because she's not doing well either, and there's no one there for her. That's what sin does. See, it cuts us off from everybody else, and it cuts us off from God. Where do you think you're isolated and alone, cut off from God? Where do you think you don't measure up? Where do you think you're that one, that Thomas, that just doesn't deserve it? Right there, Jesus is coming to you right now by his Spirit, and with a smile and a twinkle of his eye, he's wiping it all away and he's saying, peace be with you. You're my child. Receive life anew in me, and I'll empower you to live in it. Thomas kneeled down and said, my Lord and my God. He received this peace. Where do you need to receive this peace anew in your life? Maybe for the first time. My Lord and my God. He is this Lord of grace who has the power over death itself to empower us every day to live in life. Now, the account doesn't end here. The next thing Jesus says is this: because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. You ever wonder why this continues? Why Jesus felt a need to say more and why these words are recorded? Lots of times we Christians look at this and we say, oh, see, so what he's doing is he's really dissing the disciples. He's especially dissing Thomas. Because you can't diss just Thomas. The other disciples saw him too, right? So if he's going to tear him down, basically he's saying, all you guys that had to see me, you're chicken meat, right? These people that won't have to see me, they're blessed. You think he's saying that? Because sometimes we Christians think he is. We think he's dissing Thomas or he's dissing the other 10, he's dissing all of them, and he's holding up these wonderful people who will see without believing. That's not what he's doing. You've got this set of disciples, followers of Jesus. Every single one, God loves individually. Thomas. But there's more. The next circle are all those who will come to this faith in Jesus without seeing him. You see? When we talk in terms of this kind of overwhelming love, and that I am so valuable, we have such a hard time not devaluing another. If I'm valuable, then obviously you guys are not. Isn't that how we think? If I'm going to be the star of the team, then obviously you're not going to be the star of the team. Huh? If I'm going to go to that college and have a great education, obviously this guy over here, he's not as good as me, so he won't be able to go. Everything in our existence, we tend to think that, boy, if I'm elevated, that means somebody else is not. And so we got all this stuff where we're trying to get past the other person. Am I wrong here? We have such a hard time with that. I remember, and I've used this once before, and I only use it again because people connected with this. But I remember when we were going to have our second child, and this one night, Jane and I were talking, and she just got kind of freaky on me. She said, she's so worried. She said, how can we ever love this second one like we've loved the first one? How can we possibly do that? And I have to laugh because, as you know, guys don't think as much. And I just thought, well, I don't know how we're going to do it. We're just going to, that's kind of, you're just going to do it, right? But when I left that day, when I used that before a while ago, I had like 15 moms tell me they struggle with the same thing. See, we have such a hard time with that. That's why Jesus went on here. He's including a bigger group. And he's saying, I love each and every one of them in the same way. And in fact, every one of the billions of people on this earth, he knows perfectly individually, loves them perfectly individually, and would have each one of them be a part of his family. It's too much for our minds. But if we who are created in the image of God can just get a taste of it with parents and children, we can get a taste of how God can view every single person because he is the Father of us all. Jesus, or this text is not done yet. The writer, it goes on, and the concentric circle within the set gets even bigger. This isn't Jesus talking, remember, but the writer is saying, hey, we wrote these things about Jesus. He did many other things. He said many other things, but we can't put them all down. But these are written so that you believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Now, this is you plural in the Greek, all right? You plural. And I usually say, let's translate that y'all. But I think in the context here, it's meant to be translated differently. Each one of you. Because you came from Thomas to a little bigger group. Now, each one of you, this is, by the way, written to you. All those who would read this, right? From this moment on, here's the biggest concentric circle within the reality of those who follow Jesus. But these are written that each one of you may believe that Jesus is the Christ. This belief, it's not a stone stuck inside of us. It's a living relationship in him. This trust of relationship, right? So these are written that you may believe, that each one of you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing, each one of you may have life in his name. And the word for life here is not bios. It's not the physical existence, but Zoe, this life of connection with God, through which everything else is lived out. This is the more of Easter that we're looking at today. You matter to God, no matter what. Every single one of us. And when you get this heart of God for you, it changes us. It changes a person. The Bible talks about us being remade in the image of Christ. We begin to have this same heart of Christ towards others. Never perfectly, but we begin. And so when John, the last surviving disciple, as an old man, wrote these words, he's talking about the resurrection, that which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked at, and our hands have touched, right? And he's talking about Jesus here. Not only did he hear him and see him, but after the resurrection, he touched him. And our hands have touched. This we proclaim concerning the word of life. But it's not just a truth statement. It's not just getting it right on the test. There's so much more to this. It's about this Zoe life of relationship with God that he knows. And he goes on to reflect this heart of the Savior. He says this, we proclaim to you what we have seen and heard. Read the next phrase with me. So that you also may have fellowship with us. And we just kind of run by that word fellowship. I don't know if there's a good way with English to explain it. The word is koinonia, and we throw that around, and we're not quite sure what it means. If you look it up, it says the closest of relationships. But maybe it's better to see how it's used elsewhere. It's used in a verse about Holy Communion, and it talks about the blood of Christ, the wine rather, sharing in the blood of Christ. Man, that's close, isn't it? That's close. We write this to proclaim what we've seen, so you may have this closeness with us. I don't even know if family does it justice, but the closest of family. We're writing this so you can be one of us, so you can be in the set. You get it? So you can be one of those 10 that Jesus first appeared to on Easter, on Easter evening. So you can be a follower, so you can be part of our family. That's why we're writing this. And it says, and our fellowship, it's not just an earthly thing. This koinonia is not just here, but it's with Father. God who loves you individually, perfect, molded you together inside your moms and brought you back in Jesus. That's why they're writing it. And the next phrase, it reveals what God has done with their hearts. We write this to make our joy complete. Where is God changing your heart so that other one, you can have a love like this for? So that no matter what, you can bring Jesus to them, not just with a truth statement, but with arms open wide in love. One who is maybe fouled up, but you can have the dancing of the eyes as you bring them the love and forgiveness of Jesus and the acceptance of your heart. So this week, where do you need to receive anew the wondrous reality that you matter to God, no matter what? Where do you need that? Huh? Where do you need to see yourself as the one, the Thomas for whom Jesus has come by grace through faith? Do it. And where are you challenged to see another as that one for whom Jesus has come? By grace through faith, receive this more for that one also and live in it. For in so doing, our joy, your joy, is made complete. And man, let's don't work so hard. This one could be your husband or your wife. This one could be your children or your grandchildren, or your moms or dads. This one could be that neighbor next door or across the street. This one could be the closest of your friends. Oh, it might be that one way over there. And if that's how God's Spirit leads you, awesome. But just open our eyes and let's see who God brings in front of us. And may God's Spirit guide you this week. Amen. We stand, we confess our faith with these words.